speak to the congregation. I don't take it lightly. Eden did pass out some kind of handouts, and I want to just read so that we can get through this quickly, and my hope is that there will be some time at the end where you can ask me some questions. Okay? So, it says the Declaration of Injustice. Now, this is funny because it came from the Declaration of Independence, but changed the independence to injustice. And it says, Future for Felons is a movement that is focused on advocating for the protection of the rights of felons against discrimination in free society. Now, some will say they don't have rights, but yes, they do. Even Thomas Jefferson called them inalienable rights. Okay, so they do have rights, and they are inalienable, which means that they are God-given. So you cannot take them away. Okay, especially not in free society. Now, in prison, yes, you can take them away. Why? Because prison is slavery. Okay, prison is bondage. Prison is where the land of the guilty are. Okay, prison, yes, no rights, no responsibilities, no opportunities. It's not about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness over there. We get that. However, when you bring them out here, then this is a different system of operation, okay? And so, yes, they do have rights out here. And then it says, we strongly believe that it is the responsibility of the government to make sure that they are protected from discrimination, and that a failure to do this is an injustice and a neglect of responsibility on the part of the government. The government needs to do a better job of helping felons transition back into society. And that means things like providing them with jobs, education, and a stable living environment. Okay? Research shows that there is a strong correlation between crime and a low socioeconomic status, a lack of a stable living environment, lack of education, and poverty. Okay? Now there are those who say, oh, what about John Doe who is making all the right moves but still doesn't have a job? Yes, but John Doe does not have the stigma. Okay, when you're labeled a felon, that is a stigma. That is a mark of infamy. Okay, and it is very difficult. The odds are already stacked against you. It's one thing to be a felon. It's another thing to even be a black felon. The odds are really stacked against you then. And so John Doe, without the, he doesn't have the stigma. So he still has the opportunities. These people remind me of, we know the prodigal son story. And a lot of focus seems to be on the father and the prodigal one. But people who say things like this about the John Doe who made all the right moves remind me of the older brother who got mad because the father showed mercy to his brother. And he said, oh, I've kept your commandments all this time and I didn't break nothing. And you didn't kill the fatted cow for me. Okay, what did the father say? He said, you've always been with me. Okay, all of mine is dying. In other words, you've had the opportunity to throw the wild party all this time. If you didn't take advantage of that, that's on you. Okay, but your brother is back now. Okay, so that's the issue there. Okay, now we believe that the criminal justice system and ultimately the government are the slave masters, and the felons are their slaves. The felons are not seen as people of value, but as possession of value. Now we know, even in the Bible, that economies have always been built on the back of slaves. Let's go back to Exodus. Okay, the Egyptian economy was built on the back of Hebrew slaves. Okay, let's bring it closer to home. The U.S. South. The U.S. economy was built on the back of black slaves. So this has been, and we can find a lot more throughout history. So in what's happening here with the prison business is a $640 billion business. Okay, and so they are enslaving felons and reaping profits off of it. Okay, this is it. It costs a lot of money to house a prison, and a prisoner, and they are building more prisons, so more money, and they are privatizing prisons. Okay, you shouldn't be building more prisons. You should be emptying them. Okay, but they are building more because it is an economic profit for the government. All right. Now, for those who, because I've spoke with a lot of clergy, and some of them, they struggle with seeing how prison is slavery. The online dictionary defines a slave as a person who is the property of and wholly subject to another. Okay, so like a bond servant. So felons are the property of and they are wholly subject to the government, to the criminal justice system. Okay, they are their property. All right, and the online dictionary lists the following words as synonyms. Okay, same meaning, words that have the same meaning as the word prisoner: bondman, bondservant, bondwoman, convict, detainee, hostage, internee, prisoner of war, and slave. Okay? Now there are those who say, well, it is not slavery because these people made a choice to commit the crime. That's a moot point because debt is a form of slavery, and the Bible said that the borrower is slave to the lender. Now people choose to enter debt, okay, but it's still a form of slavery, so that's a moot point. Okay. Now here are some statistics. Okay, 5% of the world's population resides here in the U.S. However, 25% of the world's prison population resides here in the U.S. The U.S. houses the most prisoners, followed by Russia, then South Africa. The U.S. is the leading nation when it comes to incarceration. Then Russia, then South Africa. Okay, 47% of the prison population in the U.S. is African American. Okay, as of 2015, the U.S. rate of imprisonment for 2015 is 5,948 to every 100,000 for African Americans, 2,365 to every 100,000 for Hispanics, and 1,101 to every 100,000 for whites. Okay, so this is why I say it is a sort of modern day slavery. It is slavery repackaged in a subtle way. Okay, but it's still slavery. It has all the elements as it did, except, okay, you may say, well, there's not physical death, but there is social death. Okay, it's not physical death, but there's social death. All right, and so we believe that it is the lack of protection and provision of the needs of the felon that accounts for most of the high crime rates, recidivism rates, which is the rate at which people come out of prison and then they go back. Okay, 5 out of 10 black men will return to prison after the first year of release. Okay, and that number, 5 also for Hispanic, 4 for whites. By the 5th year, 8 out of 10 men will return back to prison. Okay, and for Hispanics it's 7, and I believe for whites it's 6. Okay, so the strongest or the main opposition to the movement thus far is not the authorities or the government. I used to think it would be, but the Lord showed me different. It is the mentality and the attitudes of the people, even in the church, towards felons. Okay, this is a democracy. And a democracy, by definition, is a government for the people, by the people. Okay? And so the governments are instituted by men, and they derive their just powers from the consent or agreement or support of the governed people. So basically, the power they have is the one we give them. Okay? And so here are some of the attitudes that people have when it comes to felons. The first one, they chose to do the crime, so they don't deserve rights, and they deserve what they get. So my question would be, do you deserve the mercy and the grace of God that you get on a daily basis? Okay? People who say this represent what I call a Jonah mentality. Okay? Very narrow, vindictive, unforgiving, lacking in compassion, hypocritical, Pharisee-like, selfish and prideful mentality. Because the truth is they are not any better than the felons. At least not in the eyes of God. They may be in the eyes of man, but not in God's eyes. Nobody will be justified before God. So if they see themselves as better, they are wrong, because they are not. Okay? It's like the woman caught in adultery. Okay? The Pharisees brought the woman caught in adultery to Jesus. And they said, oh, this woman was caught in the very act of adultery. And Moses' law requires us to stone her. What say you? Okay, in other words, they were saying, she did wrong and she deserves to be stoned. But what did Jesus say? He who is without sin cast the first stone. And all of them had to leave. Okay? So that's these people who say that are just, they're unforgiving. Okay? And they fail to realize that this could easily be them the next day. We know of this police who got arrested. JPD police who just got arrested. Okay? One day he's on this side of the law. The next day he's staring down the barrel of a felony. This can be anybody. This can happen to anybody. Okay? It can be you. And then when it's you, you will want some mercy. If it was you, you would want some mercy. Okay, but now, because, and it's not as if they haven't broken the law, it's just that they weren't caught. So it's not that they didn't ever break the law, they just weren't caught. They weren't caught when they were driving home drunk. God spared them that they didn't kill somebody while they were driving home drunk or something. Okay, catch a manslaughter charge or something. Okay, all right. So the focus seems to be on what they did and not why. As mentioned earlier, certain factors strongly correlate to crime: a lack of education, unstable living environment, and a low socioeconomic status. 65% of incarcerated prisoners don't have a GED. Okay? So obviously there is a correlation there between education, lack of low socioeconomic status, and unstable living environment. Okay? So though these people may say they deserve what they get, yet they are affected by the felon's circumstances because they live in the same community. It costs the taxpayers $30,000 to house one inmate for a year. So you're paying for it. It affects you. That's number one. Number two, imagine, and this is an analogy, imagine a single mother with two children, one boy, one girl. Okay, and the girl, she's in what, 10th grade. She's not done with high school, but she got pregnant. Okay, she got pregnant while she was in high school. And her brother says, well, she doesn't deserve to finish high school. I don't care about her. She made the decision to go have sex. She doesn't deserve to finish high school. Okay, though he maintains that kind of attitude, which is that Jonah mentality, okay, yet he's affected by his sister's circumstances because he may be the one having to change the next diaper. He may be the one having to go to the store so that he can purchase the diapers. He may be the one having to babysit so she can take night classes for GED or whatever the case may be. He is affected by his sister's circumstances. Now, he doesn't want to help his sister, but he's probably going to have to help his sister. Why?
Mama.
Because his mother, the authority, is going to influence him. The mother is going to say, yeah, you bet this is your sister and you're going to help her. We are family, and we are going to help her get through this, and we're going to get through this together. So that's on a larger scale. That's on a family level, but on a larger scale, that is the same thing. The circumstances of felons affect us because they are in our community. Okay, they let them out here as either on parole or probation or they've done all the time, and so. Their circumstance affects us. It does. It really does. Okay? So bringing them out here without protecting their rights from discrimination only increases the chances that they will commit another crime. Because either you protect the rights of the guilty or you will endanger the rights of the innocent. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Either you protect the rights of the guilty or you will endanger the rights of the innocent. Okay, they are getting discriminated on. Okay, I'm not going to hire you because you have this record. Okay, you can't get a place to stay because you have this record. Okay, that is discrimination. Okay, and back to the analogy, kind of the same way the mother influenced the brother to help the sister. The mother represents the government. The government is able to influence the rest of society in favor of the felon. We're going to talk about that a little bit further down. But the second type of mentality is those who actually have family members or loved ones affected by this, or perhaps they themselves, but they have given up hope. Okay, like it's never going to change. I'm done. I'm a felon for life. It's never going to change. They've given up all hope. They have a defeatist mentality. Like it's over. It's over. Okay, so that's another type of mentality I'm dealing with. Then the third one is those who say, "What do I care? I'm not affected by this." Yes, you are. Just like I was saying, because you could be the next victim of a felon committing a crime in an attempt to get his needs met. See, because when you tell them that when you make it difficult for them to pursue life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, to get jobs, to better themselves, God has put in all of us that desire to reach out, be fruitful, multiply, expand, enlarge. God has put that in all of us. Okay? All of us. It's in all of us. And so when you make it extremely difficult for somebody to do that, then they're going to find ways to do that. And for most of them, it's committing crimes. Okay? So if you say, "Oh, I'm not affected by this," you could be the next one hijacked. Or a loved one of yours could be the next one hijacked by a felon trying to get their needs met. Okay? And we're not even talking about all the other court-levied obligations, fines and fees and all that. That's there. And then they're just trying to survive. They're just trying to get their basic needs met, even if it's shelter or something to eat. Okay? So this is a serious problem. And so now there are three important relationships to consider in helping felons transition back into society. Okay, the first one is master-slave, which is the relationship between the government and the felon. Okay, that is an important relationship. The second one is slave and society, which is the relationship between the felon and the rest of the community. The third one is the master-society. Okay, this is the relationship between the government and the community. This relationship should mediate the first two. Okay, so the government, as I was saying earlier, they have the power, or they are able to influence the community in favor of the felon, but that's not what they do. They influence the community against the felon, and they say, "We're doing this to protect your rights." That's the pretext. They say, "We're doing this to protect your rights," but in reality, they are not. Because the rights of prisoners and ex-prisoners are an excellent measure of the strength of human rights in a given society. The more punitive and exclusionary the policies are towards prisoners and ex-prisoners, the less protected are the rights of the citizens in general. Our rights are protected to the extent that theirs is, because they are in our community. Okay, there's a saying that you're only as strong as your weakest link. Okay, so your rights is protected to the extent that theirs is. Okay, and that's the truth. But they tell you that we're doing this to protect your rights. We're making it difficult for them. We're stripping them of their right to live life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're stripping them of their right to vote and all these things to protect your rights. But it is not. It is not. Okay? So here are some effects of having a felony record. You cannot vote. You cannot obtain student loans or financial aid. You cannot live in government-subsidized houses. Okay? When you should, I believe that should be the opposite. They should be able to, because it's the government that's responsible for them. Okay? So they should be able to. Can't work in law enforcement. Can't join the armed forces. Cannot work in banks. Cannot sell real estate, insurance, or any job requiring a license. Okay, the list goes on. The list goes on. Okay, and there are also ripple effects. Okay, so it's affecting one person. That means it's affecting one family, which means it's affecting one community, and ultimately it's affecting the nation. Okay, so there's ripple effects of this thing. Okay, this is a serious problem. All right? And so as the movement grows, because I believe it will grow, because one thing I do know is that God is on my side. And that's the only reason why our overseer let me in here. It's not because of my wife, it's because the Lord is on my side, and he recognized that. He recognized that. Okay? And so I can see the government being an opposition. What Hubert Blaylock calls the power threat theory. Okay, basically that theory states that a minority group, as a minority group is gaining power, those in control will do whatever it takes to stay in control and to stifle the growth of the minority group. And an example from there is, we know in Exodus 1 that, Joseph had just died, and the children of Israel, they were now in the land of Egypt, and there was a new Pharaoh, okay? A new Pharaoh came, a new king, who did not know Joseph and did not know his descendants. And what did he say? He said, hey, look at these children of Israel. They are fruitful. They are multiplying. Hey, let us deal with them. Let us afflict them so that they don't, they don't grow. And then when there's the time of war, they join with our enemies and defeat us. So they saw, or the Pharaoh saw the children of Israel, their growth as a threat to his political and economic power. So he decided to afflict them even harder. But what does the Bible say? The more he afflicted them, the more they grew. Okay, so that's what this is. I really believe that. Okay, you can't stop this. All right. So, how did God treat the first felon on earth? Okay, the Bible is an awesome book. Every situation we're dealing with in life you can find something in the Bible. The first felon on earth is found in Genesis 4. Cain. Cain was the first felon on earth. Okay, he killed his brother. Okay, and the Lord pronounced his punishment on him. He said, my punishment is greater than I can bear. And so God put a mark on him. Okay, a mark. And said, if anyone kills Cain, vengeance will be taken on them. In other words, God is saying, if you mess with Cain, I'll mess with you. Okay, I'll put a mark. Call it a stigma, whatever you want to call it. I'll put a mark on him. Anybody messes with him, I'm going to mess with them. That's the way the government should be treating the felons. Look, listen, you mess with them, I'll mess with you. But no, they don't. They don't, okay? They don't, all right? And so, but again, they get their power from the people. So if the people would come together, we can really change this. So the problem is working on the way people see this, okay? The way people think about this, okay? So that's the main problem right now, okay? I'm trying to talk and let people see that, listen, this is really how it is, okay? This is really how it is. And so protect the felons from discrimination by society, okay? And this is on the government. This is the government. They are the slave masters and these are their slaves. And it is the responsibility of the government to look after their slaves. So long as they have this label called a felon, they are your slaves. Okay? Either you remove the label, which is probably not going to happen. Well, then with that comes protection. You have to protect them much like you would protect a handicap. That's a stigma. Okay? That is a stigma. Okay? Some people say, they didn't make the choice to be handicapped. Some did. What if somebody went skiing and then had a terrible accident and now they're crippled for life? They made the choice to ski, but you still protect them. They're handicapped now, but you still protect them. So that choice thing is a moot point. Okay? They need to protect the rights of felons here from discrimination. Okay? So the bottom line is this, as I close. Say nothing, do nothing, and this injustice will continue. And in the words of Dr. King, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Okay? So this Saturday is the first of many marches to come. All right? And it's called March to the Future. And it's Felons Need Rights to Function in Free Society. It's on Saturday, May 20, 2017 at 11 a.m. prompt. Okay, it starts at the Jets bus station on Caraway and Matthews Avenue, the main one. And it ends right here at Temple 98. Okay, and I really appreciate our overseer for opening his church as a destination. I just got a call from the police as I was walking in here saying how it's going to go down. They're going to be right beside us walking. As we're marching, the police will be right there following us down all the way till we get here. Okay, so it says we need you. Yeah, we really do. We really do. We need you. Okay, we need you. Okay, all right. The more people we get, the more the movement grows, and then we can effect the social change. Okay, we can social change. It starts here. So come out. I encourage you. Come out and march with us. This will be the first of many. If you can't make this one, there's more coming. Trust me. There's more. This is it's not one and done. Okay. As soon as this happens, I'm going to start working on the next one. Okay. So please come out and support, and let's make a difference. Okay. All right. Any questions? Yes.
I'm really lost. I don't understand.
Okay.
So we marching for what?
We are marching for the rights of felons in free society.
Okay.
They are over here when felons, ex-prisoners, and if you're on probation or parole, whatever the case may be, when you're out here, the stigma of being a felon prevents you or makes it very difficult for you to get a job. They'll tell you you can't get a job because of your criminal record. They'll tell you you can't get a place to stay because of your criminal record. You can't vote. There's so many things. There's no opportunities. Okay, and so that's an injustice. Okay, and so we want to change that. And so this is the by marching, peaceful march, just a peaceful march. Okay, creating an awareness for this. Okay, because far too long it's swept under the rug. It needs to change. It's time for this thing to change. And so this is the way we are going about it. Is marching, is creating a public awareness for it. Is going on the radio. This is what we're doing. Yes.
So when you say felons can't vote, is it a certain felon? Because I know some felons that have been voting.
Okay, and I also know in certain states you can, but as far as I know, if you have a felony record, you can't vote. Now, in certain states, you can.
In the state of Arkansas, you can.
Okay, but not there. I think you can count on. I think Louisiana is another one that you can, but you can count on your fingers the number of states that do allow felons to vote.
Yeah, Illinois does.
Okay.
And I just wanted to on the government subsidized housing.
Yeah.
Have someone tried to apply and was turned down because of felony? Because I work for the housing.
Yes. I was in a meeting, and yes, people have applied, but there was a meeting I was in, and they weren't talking to me, but I overheard the ladies. They were talking of a particular case, and it was mentioned that, hey, this person has a felony record. Okay, and they were like, oh, nope, can't get into government housing because of the felony record. Okay, so I overheard, and this lady, I don't know what her name is, she also works with the housing authorities. Okay.
No, because we don't go by felons. I mean, it's a violent criminal activity.
Right.
So it can be a misdemeanor. If it's a violent criminal activity, then you're not eligible for 5 years.
Right.
So it's not a lifetime. A
Right.
lifetime is only a sex offender.
Right. Now, in that 5 years, what's going to happen though? What's going to happen to this person in that 5 years? And we're just seeing that in the first year, 5 out of 10 black men, they're going to go back to prison. They're going to recycle. They're going to go back to prison. Okay, and by the 5th year, that number jumps to 8 out of 10. Okay, so this thing is a struggle. It's a real struggle, and it's especially a struggle for the black community. I mean, it is. It's just that the numbers say that. So it seems to me like a modern day slavery. Thank you.
So if it's not, okay, so if it's not violent, then they can receive.
If you're a felon and it's not a violent crime, you're eligible.
So, okay, my question is, so you said what's gonna happen in between those 5 years?
Right.
Okay, the thing about it is, what are you gonna choose to do within those 5 years? Because at the end of the day, you did choose to do whatever it is.
Okay, we just talked about it.
I'm saying if you, what do you do? Are you gonna change if you change your mentality about how you look at things, then it's different. It's all about a person's mentality. If I become a felon,
Right.
but I choose to continue to do what I'm doing I choose to say, you know what, ain't nothing out here for me. I ain't gonna do it. Then you have to try to change. You know what I'm saying? The way you look at things and the things that you do. If you don't try to change something for yourself, yeah, you're gonna go.
Okay, so the people who, with that mentality, they represent what is called the outliers. Okay, the outliers. You know what I mean by outliers? Outliers in statistics, you have the average, then you have the outlier or the exceptional. The average, okay, the average. Oh, sorry. The average person is not going to do what you're saying. The average. Okay, Obama said everybody's not Lil Wayne.
Right.
In other words, he's saying, hey, everybody's not LeBron James. Everybody's not going to be the average everyday person. They are going to give up and they are going to resort back to crime. And I know my time is up. We can talk about this more after service. Sorry. Well, I thank you, Pastor
You
Joyce.
got to tell them about to wear the white T-shirts.
Oh, sorry. Yes. You have to wear, if you're going to participate in the march, please a plain white T-shirt and be there by 10:15 a.m. if you're going to participate in the march. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.